Linda, thank you for the invitation. It's indeed a privilege to be here today. And what I would like to, to discuss is more the role of the primary producer and then, more specifically the primary dairy producer. I think it's a very, very important role player, to ensure that we actually do get healthy food and healthy dairy products on our desks every day. Now, what I would like to discuss today, first of all, I would like to take a quick glance at the South African dairy industry, and then I would like to mention some of the risks that we do have, under that, more specifically, then to pay attention to food safety and also to the public health. And then, as was referred also by previous speakers, I would like to look at some of the risk mitigations that we do from farm to fridge. That's very, very important to look at that also. Now, if you look at the South African dairy industry, although we are a very small role player, if you look at the total, the world production, we only produce about 0.6% of the total milk that's produced in the world on a daily basis. We've got about 286 dairy farmers or dairy parlours in the country, and then milking about 600,000 dairy cows every day. Now that milk is, those 600,000 dairy cows are actually producing about 3.3 billion litres of milk, every year, with a total revenue or total turnover then of 14.6 billion rand. Now I think it's important, if you look on the right-hand side there, the right-hand slide there, I would like to call it a dichotomy between, a very, very advanced dairy industry, and advanced, although as I said in the beginning, we're very small, but we're one of the most advanced dairy industries in the world. And, it's a highly technological environment. And then on the other side, we've got the emerging farmers, subsistence dairy farmers, and, the guys that's milking 1 or 2 cows on a daily basis. And that's also what we do, as we sustainable dairy farming for everyone. That's basically our vision at the MPO, at the Milk Producers Organization, addressing the needs and the wants from the guy that's milking 1 or 2 cows by hand, and then also up to the bigger dairy farmers that's milking up to 10,000 dairy cows per day. Just on this triangle, you can see it a little bit better, and I would like to, mention it here and then maybe get back to it later on again. Because on the commercial side, as I said, about 1,200 dairy farmers. Of that, about 20% of that 1,200 will be producing about 80% of the milk, the dairy that we consume per day. We've also got a project running in Kwakwa in the Free State under the auspices of Milk South Africa, where we're actually supporting 16 emerging dairy farmers, to go to the next level. But as I said, the darker blue and the very dark blue at the bottom, the subsistence farmers, that's also where we need to look at, and specifically when you look at food security, important there, to supply the product there, but also then to look at food safety, and then also, the different things that we need to make sure that it's a sustainable environment and that we produce a sustainable and a very, very good and a very high quality product. So I think it's important, just to keep this in mind. But as I said, there's different risks that we do have in the dairy sector. Some of that, I'm not going to discuss everything here, but I think I would like to highlight, the dairy industry is a very volatile environment. There's ups and downs there. Then it's, the milk price. Then it's, as an example, weather can play a role. And all of that is actually contributing, to make this a very, very volatile industry. And not many people will survive in this type of industry. There's a lot of business risks also associated, but I think the more important ones lower down, animal health, animal welfare, very, very important to look at that. But then more specifically, food safety, and then also public health. Now, if you look at food safety, if I can highlight that I think it's important, that everything that we do on the food safety side is done under Act 54 of 1974, the Foodstuff, Cosmetics and Disinfectant Act. And that's, where everybody, there we look at the public health, including the food safety, and then also the standards. And there's, as Dairy Standard Agency under the management of Jompie Burger is doing a very, very good job here, to make sure that we get a high quality, high level of food actually on the shelf. Every time when you go into a shop and you buy a dairy product there, you can be 100% sure, it's a high quality product. There's no inhibitory substances, it's a correct formulation. effective processing has been followed, and very important, that the product has been pasteurized. I think it's very important, if you look at dairy products, that it should be pasteurized. One, is just, I think it's irresponsible to actually to buy and to consume raw dairy products or unprocessed dairy products. And then also the prevention of the recontamination of the product, and then eventually, the maintenance. This is unfortunately a product, most of the products must be kept under quality, in the so-called cold chain, and the maintenance of the temperature control during the distribution, the retail sale, and then also the storage of the product in the home. This is very, very important to make sure that you actually do get a product that's produced under high qualities, processed under high qualities, that you actually then can still enjoy it at home. Now, if you look at public health, I think the public health and the important part on this slide is zoonosis. Zoonosis is basically, that's diseases that can be transmitted from animals to humans, and also vice versa. Humans can also transmit diseases to animals, and that's the type of disease, specifically more on the veterinary science, but then also, in animal health and so on, that we need to look at. I've highlighted some of the diseases, the possibility that it can be transmitted by milk. Some of the zoonoses I've highlighted in red at the bottom. And you can see there's an example, brucellosis. It's a bacterial disease caused by Brucella abortus, E. coli, Escherichia coli, leptospirosis, salmonellosis, and tuberculosis. Some of the diseases that can actually be transmitted by milk. And that's, the main reason, and not the main reason, but one of the reasons why we actually do pasteurize milk. So we will get back to these organisms a little bit later again. But if you look at the South African dairy farmers, as I said in the beginning, a relatively small role player, but very, very high. It's a very, very scientific industry. I will show you one or two of the research projects that we're busy running, just to make sure that we do actually produce a high quality product. So yes, South African dairy producers, and on the right hand side, very proud signage that we do have. And I think it's important, that we do buy South African dairy products, that's available, and one can actually check it on the label and make sure that you do get, that is on the label there. You can be 100% sure it's a high quality product that's produced in our country. Now, over time, the South African dairy industry has actually developed very stringent quality management systems, and that's all underpinned by different comprehensive regulatory requirements. I think earlier Dr. Molefe actually alluded to all the different rules and the regulations and the acts that we do have. I'm not going to repeat it here, but it's only important for us, to look at the customer needs. We need to look at the food safety, and then very, very important also the product traceability. And that's all paramount, for the quality systems. And there again, to get back to the important thing, animal welfare. Happy animal can produce a high quality product, and that's what we do. Also, we make sure that animals, that welfare is run up to the letter, and then also by security. And then in this total process, we need to look at the environment also. Under our whole sustainability program at the MPO, we look at productivity, the 3 Ps of sustainability, profitability, and then the people of dairy, everything that we do there that I'm not going to discuss today. And then very important also the planet, or the environmental sustainability, also very important to us. So yeah, the industry then works collaboratively with government. It's important, most of these organisms that I referred to earlier, several of those diseases are actually managed under the Act, the different acts, under the Department of Farming and Fisheries, the old DAF, or these days called DARLD, D-A-R-L-L-D. So that's all, to ensure a preventative approach to food safety across the integrated supply chain. Now, if you look at the integrated supply chain, some of the other role players, and I'm not going to discuss this slide in detail, but you can see on the left top there, the functional structure of Milk South Africa. Now, Milk South Africa do receive statutory money. Under the Marketing Act, we received money there. And there's different projects. You can see it in the peach-colored blocks there. The third one from the left, very important, dairy quality and safety. So there's a lot of research ongoing there. Also, also on the right-hand side, there's a diagram of the IDF, the International Dairy Federation. The head office, they're based in Belgium, but you can see the one little block there, dairy safety and quality. Again, you know, there's a lot of projects going on there. So it's very, very important for us to make sure that this very high quality and very nutritious product that is presented to people, you know, without any remnants or inhibitory substances or anything that can actually affect the health of the people out there. So yeah, as I said, you know, we're busy with Undermilk SA and managed by the NPO. We're busy with different dairy research and development programs. This is just some of the programs that we're doing under food safety. You can see from the top there, you know, biofilms, antimicrobial residues, anti-helminthic residues, the evaluation of antibiotic susceptibility testing methods. So we can go on. You know, we've also done a survey, you know, actually prior to that listeria scare that we had in the meat earlier, a year, 2 years ago. We've done a survey there, and we did listeria is all over. You know, it's produced. It's a ubiquitous organism. It's found all over the place. But I can actually assure people out there, you know, it's not. We've never found it actually in pasteurized milk. So yes, we haven't got listeria in our milk. Then if you go to the next slide on training, and again, I'm not going to. This is some of the training that we do from the Institute of Dairy Technology as one of the divisions of the NPO. And you can see there, you know, it's all Agri-CETA accredited training programs, all 13 of them, but you can see number 6 on milk harvesting, in-parlour processing, and that's what we do. We do it, you know, for subsistence farmers. We do it for communal farmers, for smallholders, and then also, you know, for the commercial dairy farming. Number 8, very important, the code of practice for milk producers, and also a recently developed one on biosecurity management. All very important, you know, to actually to train the people and to teach them to eventually, you know, to ensure that we do have a high quality product on the shelf. Now, as I said, you know, we look at risk and risk mitigation. You know, at the bottom, this is what I'm going to follow. The sequence, you know, from pre-farm. So these things, it doesn't start on the farm. It actually starts pre-farm. You know, pre-farming. You know, some farms do need to actually to buy in their feed. They need to buy in their concentrates and so on. And all those things do run through a very, very intensive project, or, you know, where they actually evaluate that, where they make sure that there's no inhibitory substances or anything that can actually have an effect on the quality of the milk. Livestock itself, fertilizers, the water, and then also the chemicals. And I will get back to the chemicals and more specific to the pharmaceuticals also later. You know, as I said, and as Dr. Molefe said, there's various acts and regulations. You know, and that's all happening pre-farm. So that's very, you know, it's important to actually to realize, you know, there's a whole value chain. You know, it's not just a product that you're going to buy on the shelf that you're going to think this, you know, where's this coming from and what is actually in the milk. Okay, on the farm itself, I think, you know, there's a lot of risks that we need to manage. And, you know, I can also report that our dairy farmers, all 1,200 of them, are actually manage this at a very, very high level. You know, they're looking at farm inputs, as I said, you know, to feed, veterinary chemicals and so on. But then also, you know, the 1,200 dairy farmers, very, very good managers of their herds, you know, the husbandry, strategic and effective immunization programs, and then also milking and the milking process. Very important to look at that and to continuously, you know, to train and to retrain and to upskill the people there. That's doing the job there every day, 365 days of the year. Facilities also important, and then also the training of skills and, you know, the skills and knowledge of the farm staff. And that's something that we're doing from the NPO side. You know, to upskill the people to take them to the next level. I think it's important on the right-hand side, maybe just 1 or 2 things there. You know, Dr. Vervoort did refer to the livestock identification and traceability system. We've got things in place in the dairy industry. You know, an animal can be, all animals are numbered. They're all identified on a computer, so we know exactly, you know, from the day that animal is born up to eventually when that animal is culled, we know exactly what's happening to that animal, and all records are kept, you know, on that database on a computer at farm level, and that's available if people would like to have a look at that. Vendor declarations is also required, you know, when animals and stock feed is purchased, and, you know, especially when it's coming from external sources. On the right-hand side, I've got it's a little comic there, but you can see there using antibiotics on the farm is a privilege and not a right. And I think our farmers do realize that. We've got a project that we ran last year, you know, on specifically on antibiotics and the use of antibiotics. You know, they all governed under Act 36 of 1947 and Act 101 of 1965. You know, that's the over-the-counter products that you can buy from the co-op, and then the products that you can get directly from a veterinarian. And very important, you know, there that label instructions should be followed. Very, very important withholding periods for milk. I think Dr. Vervoort also did mention it, or Dr. Gerard Neethling did mention it. You know, the injection, the withdrawal periods for certain antibiotics or for all antibiotics has been predetermined, and the farmers do adhere to that. And yeah, we do have a testing scheme. You know, every time when milk is collected at the dairy farm, a small sample will be taken from that tanker, and it will be evaluated when it arrives at the processor. At the processor, it will be evaluated for bacterial count. It will be evaluated for E. coli. They will make 100% sure there's no water added to the milk. And then also, you know, we also need to look at the somatic cell count, but then also, you know, to look at any inhibitory substances. We specifically test at this stage, we test for the beta-lactams or your penicillins. We test for your tetracyclines, and then also for your sulfamethazines. But there's also, you know, some other products that we're busy testing. And at this stage, we couldn't find any, you know, any other antibiotics or things in milk that should not be there. And that should all be documented, you know, to make sure that we do get a good quality product in the end. Okay, if you look at transport itself, you know, transport, you know, the milk transport operators, you can't just go and buy a truck and start transporting milk. You know, they should, it's all run under approved food safety program, and they all licensed, you know, at the food authorities. Because the important thing there, the milk is collected at below 4 degrees Celsius at the farm, and it must go to the processor, you know, as quickly as possible, and it must go in cooling trucks like we've got in the photo there, and be transported then to the, you know, to the processor to, you know, eventually to minimize then the potential for any food safety risks. Then it arrives at the processor, and at the processor then we do get the whole process then will start. One must also realize, you know, pathogens like E. coli, Campylobacter, and Salmonella, as an example, you know, can contaminate milk during the milking process. We in the environment, you know, animals are there. There's feces, there's, you know, there's mud, there's water. One would like to prevent it as far as possible, you know. So, but sometimes, unfortunately, it can happen that some of those organisms can enter into the milk. And that's where pasteurization then, you know, at either normal pasteurization at 70 degrees, 72 degrees Celsius, or then, you know, under the UHT or the ultra high temperature process, or then also at the extended shelf life process, you know. So that is the product that you will buy from the normal retail. And I can most definitely say that those products are, you know, that's healthy, and you can, you know, be sure the product that you're going to drink is safe, and that it won't be a problem. I think that the consumption, you know, what I've got there in red there, the consumption of milk that is not pasteurized increases the risk of contracting disease from a foodstuff that's otherwise very nutritious and very healthy. And then the foodstuff I'm referring to there is milk. So, you know, in my opinion, unprocessed or unpasteurized milk should not be consumed. If you look at the distribution, you know, the second last or third last slide here, if you look at distribution, I think the middle part there has already alluded to, you know, there's such a lot of information that we do collect at the different points, you know, pre-farm, at the manufacturer of the feeds and so on, then on the farm itself. So we actually, you know, everybody is talking about the fourth industrial revolution, but we're already there. We must just do that and get this whole blockchain, you know, the blockchain thing running. It's not driven by the technological industry. I think it's more driven by the consumer's desire to know more about the food. And this is part of the traceability that we're also running under the Animal Health Forum. This is a project, that we're going to run so that when you go into a retail shop and you buy a product there, you know exactly where that product is coming from. And then you will actually know what's happening on that farm, whether it's biosecurity or welfare or whatever is happening on that farm. You can actually trace it back there. So that's something that we, in the MPO and then also Milk SA and the different projects that we're running. These are some of the projects. It's very in the infant stage, but I think it will be in the next year or 3. That will be something that consumer will be able to buy a product on the shelf, and you would be able to trace it back to where it's actually coming from. Okay, then the last one is the manufacturers. I think I've already said it, and it was earlier said in the presentation from Dr. Molefe. The different departments, Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, the old DAF, all playing a very, very important role in interpreting and also negotiating the regulatory framework, not formwork, the regulatory framework. So it's important for us, eventually if that product, to ensure a safe and a consistent high quality product on the shelf. We need to be 100% sure that there's a very good public-private partnership, and that's what we, as an example, what we're busy doing under the Animal Health Forum, but also with the different organizations, the producers organizations like the MPO, and then also SAMPRO at the secondary level. Now on the last slide, as I said, we are sustainable dairy farming for everyone. That's basically our vision and part of our mission also, what we're busy doing on a daily basis. You can see on the left-hand side there, point number 1 there, safe and high quality products, healthy, comfortable animals and high quality of life for people on the farm. And then also if you look at the productivity or the economic side of it, cost efficient, environmentally sustainable dairy farm practices. So my very last slide here is, I think South Africa, the supply of our milk, based on the existing standards, I think I'm comfortable to say it's a very, very high quality product. And as a result of the high quality and the way that we produce this product, that we call milk, the risk to the general public from milk-borne zoonotic agents, I would say, is effectively eliminated. So that's, in a very, very few slides. It's one can take much longer on some of these things, but I think it's important, to share this with the general public out there, and that they can be 100% sure, the product that they do buy on the shelf is a high quality product, and they can drink it, with any hesitation.
Wow, Chris, I had no idea about all the things that go in to make sure that milk that I put in my tea is as safe as what you have explained. So thank you very much for a very, very comprehensive presentation. I think that the dairy industry is definitely one of the most organized when it comes to food safety and milk supply, and that as South Africans should be very comforting for us to know. And thank you very much for also mentioning your opinion regarding unpasteurized milk. It's definitely an area that I am personally very concerned about, and so I'm glad that you agree with me that it's not in your best interest from a health perspective to drink unpasteurized milk. I love the South African cow. The South African cow is so cute. That's an amazing logo in terms of sustainable dairy farming, and we hope to see it all over the place as you guys continue with those initiatives to increase sustainable dairy farming. Thank you very much for your presentation. We really do appreciate it.